Okay, I think maybe it's working now. All right, I am going to switch channels to see if it's actually working. All right, I am going to switch channels to see if it's actually working. Channels. Okay. All right, I am going to switch channels to see if it's actually working. Channels. Okay, so I guess it's good. And I guess this is going to be kind of a repeat of that last very sad failed post, which is great because there was an embarrassing 8 minutes of the screen being black and then me talking to myself in an increasingly distressed fashion. Great. All right, well, thank you for tuning in. If anyone is here, and I might just be, old man screaming at cloud again, and that's okay. I'm going to talk about a Halloween story that I want to write up for you guys. I asked for some prompts, and I got 2. One of them was in regards to the 1980s movie Gremlins, which I have never seen, because I'm a really boring and deprived person. So for now, I'm putting that to the side. Although, actually, I do see where there might be some potential, and I might try to integrate that at some point. The other prompt was the very classic vampires, which is all good. I like some supernatural creature stuff. So I was thinking a little bit about that, and so far I have thought up 4 possible setup scenarios that I might be interested in doing. Like the very classic, I think, for doing a fandom piece with something like vampires is to sort of import the characters out of the fandom universe into a sort of either like a supernatural verse or sort of like a kind of like a modern real life type place, scenario, high school or something like that. But actually, I want to keep it in the fandom verse, and I am thinking that I'm going to be doing this piece in Naruto because that's what I do most of my writing in. And yeah, there's just a lot of fun characters to play around with. So with that in mind, the 4 scenarios that I have so far are 1, the premise of an intrusion into the Naruto world. So this would basically be a kind of the self-insert premise where the vampire is just a baseline vampire that we might think of either now or kind of a historical vampire imported directly into the Naruto world and probably pretty confused about it. I think this would have a lot of potential for you to go one of 2 ways. You could either make this funny, and it probably, that would not be difficult because this poor vampire has no idea what he or she is getting into. And I suppose actually if you're doing that route, you could have that vampire be a Naruto character person who is just missing in this Naruto verse, which could be very fun. Or you could also, of course, play that as a straight horror genre type thing. I think the vampire would have a lot more success if it's set up outside of a shinobi village, but that would probably eventually lead to some sort of mission being commissioned because people are like, like everyone who goes here dies. We don't hear back from them. Like, that's kind of a problem. So that could be a kind of classic Naruto type story scenario, which is always good. Could be very fun. So that's setup number 1, intrusion into the Naruto world. Setup number 2 and 3 are very similar. So they both start with the premise that the vampires have always been there in the Naruto verse, but they're a little different. So premise 2 is where vampires have always been there in the Naruto verse, And this is openly known. You know, it's just like, yeah, you know, you got vampires, you got shinobi, you got civilians, you know, like the three normal types of people. This could be very fun. One of the benefits of this is that obviously a vampire sort of mythology is really Western, and I think it might be fun to reinterpret it along with what might kind of organically happen in the Naruto verse, which is, of course, you know, like very heavily influenced by Japanese thought. I'm taking a second to try to check this to see if there's any comments or anything, but I have no idea what's going on at any given point in time. Okay, looks clear. Okay. So there's that type scenario, which it might be fun and interesting to think about, like how the vampires would be integrated into the Naruto universe. Because, like, are they going to be shinobi or not? Are they going to find themselves doing, like, open regular missions? Or are these, like, contractors? Like, are they just normal people with kind of a secret double life thing going on? You know, possible. And, of course, you know, very connected to that, it have a lot of the same benefits, is where vampires have always been there, but it's secret. So, this setup is something like, think of Harry Potter and the Wizarding World type split, where it's just this separate kind of society going on that that some communities know about, but is not openly acknowledged. And I think if I were to go this route, I would probably want to integrate other types of supernatural creatures and make it kind of a thing with a bigger cast. If I were going to do that, I would probably try to lean on Japanese, I don't know, superstitions, mythology, like that sort of thing. And then option number 4 is where this is the origin story of vampires in the Naruto world. So I think almost by necessity, there's just going to be one vampire in this possible scenario, where I feel like they've gotten saddled with the worst bloodline limit ever, and that would be so confusing and upsetting, like, to suddenly, like, have these weird things going on with your body that absolutely no one can tell you about. It sounds like a metaphor for puberty, which could be pretty funny. You could play that pretty funny, or you could make it pretty dark and confusing and disorienting. And if I were going to do that, I would probably have the vampire character be the protagonist, and probably someone from the fairly well-trodden Naruto cast. So either like one of the 12 genin who we first meet, or their teachers, or somebody from that kind of era of introduction. You know, kind of Naruto classic. I guess the next consideration that I really want to hear from you guys about is who you would want this story to focus on. So, of course, you know, like, there's the fork in the road of, do you want this to be a story where the vampire is the protagonist or the antagonist? And do you want there to be just, you know, kind of one or maybe a couple of vampires going on, or do you want this to be a big cast type deal? I think that it would be maybe a little easier to write a short story with 1 or 2 vampires. And if I was going to do that, there would probably be some themes, you know, of, you know, secrecy and loneliness and isolation, whereas it might be more of a glorious romp with a large cast. Could be very fun. So just tell me kind of, you know, what you're interested in seeing. And if you're interested in seeing any character in particular, I mentioned in the other video that I will hopefully delete because it has, as I said, 8 minutes of, you know, grandma talking to herself at the black screen. But anyways, I mentioned there that I'm thinking about Hinata because I just don't see a lot with her. I haven't written her a lot. but I think it could be very fun to explore her because I think she would be kind of an interesting vampire. Oh, and because I'm the way that I am, I just made the connection to contrasting her with Karin, who I love, and who also maybe needs a little bit more attention. And she might be more of a predictable classic vampire because she is less caught up in, I think, I don't know. I think kind of the classic vampire is very individualistic, and they're not necessarily like a cruel just jerk doing whatever they want all the time, but they're probably looking out for themselves. And the fact that they have to kill other sentient beings in order to live is something that they have probably dealt with. I feel like Hinata might be near paralyzed by this, but I feel like Karin could be kind of a more classic vampire character in that she is very fiercely individualistic and she is a survivor. And I don't know. What about kind of a vampire buddy fic with the two of them? Does that appeal to anybody? So far as characters who I'm not looking to write, I don't want to write a Uchiha vampires thing because I think it's kind of the obvious connection, and it's good and it's fun, and I've read plenty of fics like that, but it's been done. So I want to try something a little different. And if there were any kind of themes you were thinking about bringing in, please leave your comments on that below, either on Patreon or YouTube. Hopefully one and or both of those options will be available to you. Yeah. I mentioned at the end of the other video that actually the vampire myth, as we know today, was actually kind of based on, I guess foundationally founded on xenophobia. And so like the vampire was really kind of about fear of the other and demonization of people from, that sort of specific place in Eastern Europe. I guess, wow, can you hear the wind shaking my house? I love typhoon days. They're my favorite. Yeah, so I might try to bring in that kind of like classic theme, bringing it back to the vampire basics, where the vampire is fear of the other, or like as I said earlier, it might be kind of an exploration of loneliness, or it might just be really fun and goofy. So yeah, I am going to check one more time for comments, which, knowing me, I've probably made impossible, but I'll check and see. Okay, looks clear. All right, well, thank you for watching. It says that a couple people are watching, so thank you so much, even though this is incredibly embarrassingly late. This was my first attempt with live streaming. It did not go as hoped, but I think that next time will be better, and I welcome any comments you have about improving the experience. I think I can see right now that I need to look into getting a camera, because the laptop quality camera is, it's not terrible, but it's just not very good. So yeah, please give me any comments, suggestions, your thoughts, your feelings, anything you want to see, anything you're really not very interested in seeing. Let me know about that, and hopefully I'll start writing on this in a couple of hours if I get a few comments, or Monday, if not. If I get any comments pretty soon. If you don't say anything, I'm going to assume you all want to have a Hinata and Karin vampire buddy fic. So, comment if that sounds god-awful to you. All right. I think I'm finishing, and I think I know how to do it. I'm going to click the button that says stop broadcast. So if after that, you see me go, I clearly think I'm done, just stop watching, because, yeah. All right. Goodbye.